This is the Comfortably Zoned Radio Network, and it is time for According to Fastball John and David Jordon. Take it away, guys.
Five, 4, 3, 2, 1. Hello, everybody. This is John D'Acquisto for another round of According to Fastball John with my co-host, Dave Jordon. Today we're going to talk about recent signings in Major League Baseball and also the free agent market and the players that still exist on that market with only 1 day left before spring training begins. So, everybody, let's welcome my co-host, my good buddy, and my co-author of Fastball John, Dave Jordon.
Hey, Johnny. How are you, man?
Oh, I'm doing pretty good, Dave. How you doing?
Not too bad. Not too bad. It's getting close. We're almost there. We're packing up the van. We're heading on this side of the country. We're heading to Florida.
Yeah. And I've just got to drive down the street over here in Arizona. It's kind of convenient. Really? 15 teams are going to be starting up as they start arriving tomorrow on Monday.
Yeah, and you would think all of the players would have their business wrapped up and ready to move down there, but there's still little activity this week. You have the Yankees signing of Chris Carter for $3 million, which some people might think that's a great deal. We'll see if he can do something in Yankee Stadium. I'm not so sure.
Yeah.
And and also obviously the Dodgers re-upped with Chase Utley to fortify the bench, paying him $2 million plus incentive. Do you think that was the best spot for Chase to be right now?
Well, getting Utley back, he's a great player, a great veteran player. They'll end up using him more than they're going to do off the bench. That I'm going to tell you right now, I see that Dodger ball club is stacked to no end, and that might have been an unnecessary type of an addition. But in the late innings, I know Roberts likes to make some changes and pinch hit some guys. And Utley could be that guy that could knock that double. He's a doubles hitter, and he's got that pop. And putting him on the team in that position, that could really, give a good mainstay for that ball club. But right now they're just stocked up. It's going to be a battle for everybody.
And he seems like the kind of player that has the mental capacity to just be sitting on a cold bench in Pittsburgh in early April and just come off in the eighth inning and knock out a 2-run single. He seems to be that kind of player, even though he's never really been, he's never been a backup, but for the most part. But, that's a good point, David. But it's like all players have to reach that part in their career. Johnny Rollins, same thing. It's like Chase Utley is at the point in his career. He got a little graying on the sideburns and in his hair. Yeah. He's getting older. He knows if he can squeeze a couple more years out being a bench guy and not complain about it, he'll get a lot of playing time. Because when it comes right down to it, he's the veteran that they're going to go to. If he's healthy, he can really help benefit that Dodger ball club. And you know what else? If it looks like that the Dodgers are solid and really fine at second and third with Forsythe, with a recently acquired Forsythe and Justin Turner at third, you could always flip him. If for some team that needs a second baseman as a freak injury, you can always flip him for a decent long shot prospect in July.
Yes, and that could definitely happen. And I got to say this, but an outside shot, if that were to be the case, I'd actually see him going interdivision to the Arizona Diamondbacks because they're not too sure about second base right now.
Yeah, there was some talk that he might go to Cleveland, but Cleveland was pretty tight in their spots with Kipnis and whatnot. But there was a little talk of him heading up there as well, because I know he did want to remain with a competitor.
And I guess
yes.
at this stage of the game, if you're going to have to sit on the bench for 150 games or so, I think you're going to want to do it on a very exciting team that's going places. Would be my thought.
Oh, absolutely. That was his choice to stay with the Dodgers and to accept that role. And I personally believe it was a good choice on his part. I really do.
Yeah.
Smart man.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It makes sense. It really does. So on Thursday, Fox's Kenny Rosenthal wrote a piece exploring why the former Orioles All-Star catcher Matt Wieters remains last man standing on the free agent market among the A/B players. And, granted, Rosenthal pointed out a deficiency or two in Wieters' current game. He does try to make the case that Wieters would prove to be an upgrade for at least 8 ball clubs. And you're looking at teams like the Nats, the Mets, the Rockies, the Rays, the Angels, the White Sox, and your D-backs. And, I mean, how would you see him fitting into Arizona's game plan?
Actually, he would be one heck of an addition to the Arizona Diamondbacks. It's the only thing is how much do they want for him? Arizona's pretty much tapped out when it comes to buying players, and he passed up that the deal that he got for the 1 year at $17.5 million. I think Boras is kicking himself in the rear right now, but to be very honest with you, I don't think Boras really cares. He just knows. But a lot of times it could be a double-edged sword. You can hold your guy out for a long time, but he needs to get to spring training and start working on his stuff. He was out for a while, and coming in with that injury that he got, I'd like to see him test drive the car. And when you're unsigned, you're not test driving anybody's car anywhere. You're sitting there with some questions in your head. Can I still play and perform the way I did before? And that's been the questions that people are asking right now.
Yeah, that was, again, Rosenthal cited in the article that Boras acknowledged that Wieters suffered an injury in early November, requiring stitches for a laceration on his left forearm.
Mm-hmm.
He said he suffered no nerve damage and resumed all baseball activities, but you got to wonder where this guy's going to land. He's going to land somewhere, and but it is February. We have seen players who signed in February come out in that great season. You recall we were talking about Pudge a couple of weeks back. Ivan Rodriguez, he signed with the Marlins in 2003 back in late January, early February, and had a dazzling season. And then the following year signed again late with Detroit and had another follow-up good campaign. So, it has happened, but I think you're beginning to see Wieters kind of on the downside. His ballpark splits are pretty impressive. There's nothing drastic on either end, but kind of got a sense that you look at the teams that have a lot of Boras players. Texas has 6 of them, but they picked up LaCroix last season. The Nats have 5, and they're not insignificant players. They're Strasburg, they're Scherzer, they're Bryce Harper, Rendon, and of course Jason Morris at the end of his contract. I think that if you're looking out a year or two,
all Boras is stable too.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And they're A-list guys. And if you're looking out a year or two, you're wondering what kind of conversation is Boras going to have with Rizzo and Nats regarding Bryce Harper. That's going to be a very tricky conversation. If I'm Nats.
Yeah, you and I talked about this in earlier on, and I tend to agree with you. The Nats losing Wilson Ramos, losing him, and really you got to have somebody with some experience behind the plate to catch Strasburg, Scherzer, Gio. Come on. That's a veteran pitching staff. You're sitting there and you're going to put a guy that's been 2 or 3 or 4 years behind the plate up there with these guys? I don't know. I just think you'd want somebody with a lot more experience, like Matt, to catch.
Yeah. And obviously, there's no love lost between the Washington and Baltimore franchises. This would be more than a feather in their cap for them to pick him up.
TV market. That's all I can say.
Yep.
You know, that would pump up the TV market and really, really upset the Orioles. You know, unfortunately, that's what the business is all about. If I can snag one of your guys and get that TV market a little more pumped up because we have a better chance to win than you do, well, that means big dollars. And I know Mike Rizzo, he is definitely in tune and listening hard on that aspect right now to get a catcher like Matt Weathers, you know, in that position.
Mhm. Yeah. Now you look at a team like my Mets. I think you got to give Travis Serno one more year. You got to give him one more shot. He was something of a well-regarded prospect. He's had a couple of decent seasons trying to play for the Mets. He does have a problem staying healthy, and you know, I don't know. I know the Mets have a couple of Boris guys. Because obviously Matt Harvey, they have that long conversation. Also, he comes out, I believe, the same year that Bryce Harper does.
Yeah.
And Michael Conforto, who's their emerging outfielder that I think is ultimately going to end up in first base. You know, I think the Mets have to give it a shot with Darno one more year.
Yeah, I would. I'd give him one more shot. They got enough people on that club to pick him up and pull, you know, if he doesn't hit for average. But is his defensive aspect of a catcher is what they're looking for. Someone that can throw somebody out at second base or third base that's trying to steal late in the game. And, you know, sometimes you sacrifice for a batting average, but if you can get both of them, like a Gary Sanchez, you know, type player, you know, that's young and very smart, you know, it's a blessing to any team to be able to achieve that goal. You got to have that experience. Going from American League to National League, that might be a little bit of a problem, but I guess with enough of the spring training games, you're playing against each other enough, and then going into the season playing against each other enough that you know how to play in both leagues, you know, now that things have changed. So it's not going to be that much of a difference, and especially if you're a good veteran catcher, you're going to make that adjustment real fast. You know, on how to pitch. And the pitchers will tell them how they want to pitch these guys anyway. So he can make those adjustments rather fast. But I think he's a valuable asset for any team right now. And the only thing I could think that cut in his forearm has any relativity would be in his swing, you know, for hits. You know, that's the only thing I can see. That's you know.
You know, it's really difficult because I know how Boris is. He's definitely going to want to hit that number, and I know there was a number that the Orioles had that Boris and Wieters passed on. He promises his guys a certain level, and he's got to attain it. Is he going to get that number from the Rays? Probably not. He could get it from Anaheim or even the Mets, but you know the Mets have a lot of guys they got to sign. They got to eventually sign Syndergaard and a number of their other hurlers. They've already signed Cespedes. So, you know, Jacob deGrom, they got to get him down. They got to figure out what they're going to do to Steven Matz. You know, they lost out on Cologne because the Braves made him a ridiculous offer that anybody would have taken. You know? What are the Braves doing? They signed Cologne. They signed R.A. Dickey. They just traded today for Brandon Phillips.
They like the old guys. You know, let's face facts. You know, maybe it's a, you know, brand new stadium and everything this year, and they want to win. And, you know, the crazy thing about it is Bartolo Colon can still pitch. And the other crazy thing is R.A. Dickey could probably pitch real well in Atlanta with that heavy air. But think again, it's not that heavy. Atlanta is the third highest in elevation in Major League Baseball. So, will that knuckleball knuckle as much as it did in Toronto or in New York? Who knows? We'll find out.
You know what? But I think it's great that Dickey's getting out of Toronto. He's at kind of a checkered time in Canada. And,
he did.
He was made for Citi Field.
Yeah.
You look at his numbers and Citi Field, he was just lights out there, and then for Cologne as well. But really, R.A. Dickey was definitely his success was a function of the National League, in my view.
Absolutely. It's a perfect place for him, Dave. A perfect place. You sit there in your heavy air, in the New York heavy air, right on the bay. You know, you're sitting there. How can you go wrong? You know, pitching every night game. That knuckleball was dancing like Madonna on one of her great concert nights. I mean, you know, it was like something you've never seen before. And then he leaves. You know, it's like, go figure. Sometimes you got to shake your head at some of the moves that are made, you know, during the year with teams that need certain things like pitching and catching, and how come no one's moving? The only thing I can think, getting back, touching back on Weathers, isn't he about 33 years old now?
Yeah, he's on the other side of 30 at this point, and
yeah. And I think that's where a lot of people will shy away from a guy, especially on the knee department. You know, at 33, you know, that's a tough. I don't know. I would have taken the deal that was offered to him for the 1 year, and with Baltimore, and been done with it. You know, at least he knows he's going to play. You know,
he's going to turn 31.
31,
May.
Yeah. Okay.
So. And again, remember, it was when Pudge left the Rangers, he went to the Marlins on a 1-year deal.
Yeah.
I think he was a couple of years older than Wieters is right now, but still, he had to, you know, that was what was out there for him, and he did the best he could. Yeah, he was. No, hold on a second, he was 31 as well.
Yeah.
I don't know if there's a multi-year deal out there for Wieters.
Yeah.
You know,
yeah.
He's gonna have to prove himself. Even Pudge hit 314 for Texas before he left for Florida, and he signed his 1-year deal late in the off season. So,
yeah, he went the same path also. So you know, it's kind of interesting.
Now, granted,
maybe that's the catcher's path. Who knows?
He got a nice deal after he had a great year with Florida. So I think that's where Rita's going to have to go. You know, the other thing we were talking about, and it's that sadly the Detroit Tigers owner passed away and
Illich. Yep.
Yeah, Illich. And
Big Mike.
So much was made. He was a former minor league player too. I didn't know that.
Yeah. Exactly.
With that, and you know what?
Little Caesars Pizza. He started.
Yeah.
Yeah, and he also had a softball team, professional softball team called the Little Caesars, and you know, he was just a man who loved baseball and hockey. You know, he's probably the guy who resurrected the Red Wings franchise, and you know, just brought the championships into Detroit like crazy, and to you know build those Red Wings teams as he did. He's a great person and a philanthropist as well, and then coming back and bringing back the Detroit Tigers to their success ratios of what they had before, and bringing in the talent into the Detroit area again. Just fabulous work by this man. And, you know, Major League Baseball is going to lose one heck of an owner and person, you know, and very seldom you'll see an owner who's a real good person, and Mike was. And it is very sad to see him pass on.
It really was. You know, and the funny thing was, he was every baseball annual always referenced the fact that he wanted a World Series before he passed on. He wanted a World Series championship, and that's what he always focused on, was the big deal, bringing in Miggy, the trade for Ian Kinsler, among many other moves that he made. It was always Sword, and obviously, you know, bringing in Pudge in the 2000s was one of those as well. That everything was targeted toward getting that series, that elusive championship before he passed away.
Yeah, exactly. And bringing in Dave Dombrowski is not a bad move on his part either, you know.
No.
And look where Dave is now.
Yeah.
Boston, you know.
In Boston, and making crazy moves over there as well, you know.
Yeah.
Oh, and the guy knows how to spend money. There's no doubt about that. You got to give him credit there.
Yeah, definitely.
But the whole big picture is that, you know, there were so many eager fans and baseball observers on Twitter with their notices of Ilitch's passing and the RIPs and whatnot.
Oh,
and
I know.
There's players that even aren't even noticed on the BaseballReference.com website for their death. One of them was somebody that you're well acquainted with, and it brings a point to me. When I think of him, I think of the movie Bull Durham, and especially the pool hall scene where Nuke Lelouch is coming in to find Crash Davis and ready to go out and go celebrate the fact that he's coming. He's September call-up. Crash already is there, has a drink in his hand, has a little whiskey, already knows the fact that, Nuke's recall means that there's no more use for Crash.
For Crash. Crash has crashed. Crash has crashed.
And it's a sad moment. But what I recall is when he introduces the owner of the pool hall as Sandy Grimes. He hit 371 at Louisville in 1965, and how that there are a number of ball players who just get forgotten, but they have these amazing careers. And and anytime you can get to a level in the majors or even the high minors, that's an achievement. That's an incredible achievement.
Yeah.
And this week it was announced in a few spots that the former Angels outfielder Morris Nettles had passed away from pancreatic cancer at the age of 65.
That's correct.
And you put together a really nice tribute on your Facebook page for him.
Yeah, he was a good player, very good player.
Yeah.
And I played against Morris when I first came into the Pioneer League, and the Angels would stock these teams with all this young talent. And I remember watching Morris Nettles go down from home to first base in a blink of an eye. And I just went, whoa, what else you got? And it was like, it was McGowan would show up, and it just blistering speed. And then there was Junior Riggins that could run faster than all of them. There was a race there was a race that they ran in spring training. It was Morris Nettles, Mickey Rivers, and McGowan and Junior Riggins. Yep. And the four of them took off, and you know who won the race? It was Junior Riggins who won the race by 6 yards. 6 yards. That's 18 feet. I'm telling you, when I saw Junior Riggins in Davenport, Iowa in the minor leagues, that man could pick it up and lay it down. He should have been the running back that his brother was.
Right.
John was just a bruiser. He powered. He was a power fullback that could run a little bit, but Junior could flat run, and he was bigger than John. He was bigger than John.
Yeah.
So go figure. And he did play football, but he decided he wanted to go into baseball. But Morris Nettles, there's a guy that, and we talked about this earlier, how you had mentioned about Dick Williams. And I want you to throw that to the fans and let them hear about this. This is one of the top part of discussion here. But go ahead.
No. I mean, Morris Nettles basically, he batted .369 in the rookie league, had an on-base percentage of .467. He led the rookie league in the Pioneer League in 1970 in hitting. Mm-hmm. In 1973, he batted .332. He led the league in hitting also, right in front of Hector Cruz with his .328 and 30 home runs. He's a two-time batting champ. He got to the California Angels in 74, 75, and he couldn't quite make the adjustment to major league batters. And, he wanted to stick with what he knew. And unfortunately, when Dick Williams, his manager for California at the time, had said to him, you have to make some adjustments in the swing and how you get out of the box and whatnot, and he just wasn't able to make those adjustments. And it's sad how those things occur, because here was a guy who finished his career near a 300 hitter in the minor league, and a guy who got on base constantly and stole bases. And it just, he was one of the ultimate quadruple A players.
Yeah, exactly. And he never came back. Never came back. And from that point, his career took a tailspin. And, it's sad. It's sad to see a talent like that go to waste. And he was a very good defensive outfielder. You know, not just a guy that could run and hit the ball, but he could go get him. He could shag it down for you. And you know, and you look at the Angels that had all these top flight players like Morris, Nettles, Lyman Bostock, Donnie Moore, you know, all of them, you know, that passed on, you know, either from pancreatic cancer in Morris's case to suicides and, you know, car accidents. Bruce Heinbeckner, my bud Bruce, you know, takes a spin and just bad luck with all these young, talented players, you know, in that era, in the 70s, you know, and how they lost a lot of them. They were just like snake pit. And
Mike Miley.
Mike Miley. There you go. There's another one. And, you know, it's like, are you kidding me? You know, what's going on in Anaheim? You know, it's like, wow. You know, it's unbelievable. But, Morris, it was sad to see Morris pass on. And I had conversation with Ken Medlock. Kenny knew Morris and played with Morris in Davenport, Iowa. And we talked about Morris and his abilities, and he was telling me that when he first saw Morris Nettles, it was in a pickup game, and Morris was playing softball in the LA area, and he sitting on the bench. Kenny walked up in a pickup game that George Genovese was going to put together on the LA Scout League, and he saw Morris, and from that point on, they signed Morris that day. On that day, George got him signed, got him picked up, and boom, off he went. And Kenny said that was the most talented individual I had ever seen that just walked on a field.
That's amazing.
It's pretty amazing.
It was another like a pickup game. He was clocked by an Angel scout at 3.5, 3.7, going from home to first.
Yep,
so
exactly.
He really took it down there. You know, he had a leg injury while playing for El Paso in '72, and then in '74, the Angels outfielder Lee Stanton got his wrist broken by Ross Grimsley, so they brought him back up from Salt Lake City, but he had dislocated his shoulder the night before, which explained why perhaps his performance in early '74 wasn't so amazing. And then the Angels. I mean, the Angels had such great pitching in '74, '75. You know, Bill Singer, in addition to Ryan and Savannah, but they didn't have any power at all. So in '75, they took Mickey Rivers and Morris Nettles, and they swapped them out for Bobby Bonds and Bill Nelson, trying to swap out speed for power.
Yep.
And the interesting thing about Nettles is he went in as one of the leading candidates for the White Sox center field job in '76.
Yep.
But the funny thing was Chet Lemon was really a pusher at third base. So they ended up the White Sox ended up moving Chet Lemon to center and took out and Nettles never saw the majors again.
Nope. And that was it. He was done.
That's it.
Never to come back.
But the point is, you know, there's so many of these wonderful players that don't always get the accolades in passing, whether it's Facebook or Twitter, social media.
He did. There are a lot of people chiming in on the tribute that I did, and you know, a lot of people remember him, which is very interesting.
Wonderful thing.
Yeah, it is a very wonderful thing, and it says a lot about the guy. The guy, you know, and
people remember their baseball cards and they remember their memories. And
absolutely. Yeah. And how he treated the people when they wanted an autograph or something, you know, down the line. You know, so this is really, really interesting. I saw that a lot of people said nice things about Morris, and you know that really made me feel good. It really hurts a lot to see a brother pass on, let alone a family member. But you know, these guys are like family to me, and you know, we all grew up together, and they're like brothers. And every time something happens, you know, it's like you can feel that knife go, you know, and you don't know what it is about the guys in our era, but they're like dropping like flies. My God, when's it going to stop? It won't stop, but when's it going to at least slow down? You know, it's like, well, I don't know. It's a very weird and unique situation I see in the 70s era ball players. I don't know what it is. Hard to say.
It's quite a phenomenon. But you know what, Nettles? Ultimately, he batted .271 with runners in scoring position and 2 outs during his 2 seasons with the Angels, and on-base percentage close to .400. So when the chips were down, he still did good things. And
yes,
you know, Morris Nettles, he passed away at the age of 65, and I know a lot of folks like me who have tons of baseball cards from 74, 75, and 76. They will not forget him.
Oh, that's great. You know, and it's good for you to say that, David, because, you know, he won't be forgotten. But that's it for another week for us, and we won't be forgotten. And remember, you can buy Fastball John on Amazon.com, and now we're on Barnes & Noble also. So you can get our book, you can get it a Kindle version, and you can get it in trade paperback. It's a great read, folks, and I'm not just saying it. Go out and buy the book, and Dave and I will appreciate it, and you'll have something to treasure. And if you want it signed, just get in touch with either one of us. We'll be glad to sign it for you. All right? So thanks again, and that's another round of According to Fastball John, and thank you, Dave, for being on today, and we will see you next week. Good night.